Hello and welcome to this video. Rick Beato is a music YouTuber. Some of you may have heard of him. He is not only a very successful YouTuber, but I believe his way of delivering a certain type of music YouTube was incredibly innovative and has gone a long way to preserving certain aspects of music that I grew up being involved with, i.e. music that is played on instrument, that is performed and recorded in a recording studio to be put on a record or a CD for an industry that then makes its money out of selling those albums. Something that of course has died away and has taken away some of the values that we held dear for those of us who came up in the glorious period of rock and roll that has lasted for the last 60 years. Rick Beato's contribution to preserving that is very, very important as far as I'm concerned. And he has been a huge influence on me in terms of this YouTube here. Sometimes I will take the mickey out of him, but I do that in an affectionate way because actually I have learned a lot from that guy. And so it is with concern and sadness that I see that he has just been given his third copyright strike. On this video, I'm going to go through as best as I can how YouTube works, how music royalties work in terms of YouTube, how copyright strikes work, and why this is happening and what it means. And I'm going to try and identify the threat. And at the end of this video, I may even have an answer to why these groups are attacking him in the way they are, because it's actually quite counterintuitive to what you would expect they would do under this circumstance. And I'm afraid at this point in the video, I have no answer, but I'm hoping as I talk through it, I will be able to move to an answer that will emerge as the video continues. A technique that I have used extensively on this channel. So you will be able to see that argument developing. And so in that respect, there will be no editing in this video. There will be no forethought really into those answers. I am about to riff my way through to a conclusion, I hope. So shall we start at the beginning? Okay, YouTube, as you know, is a video streaming service that anybody can put up any video. It's a meritocracy of sorts. If you put a video up that people are interested in watching, the algorithm will spot that and it will start to share it out to other similar people. This enables people to bypass what used to exist in the entertainment industry, which was big film studios or television studios. Rick Beato, a few years back, was able to use a viral video of his son demonstrating his perfect pitch to bring his incredible skills as a music producer, guitarist, and educator. And in doing this, he has explored what made the music that me and him grew up with and you all grew up with. He has been able to show it in a new light and I believe create new audiences for these bands. Now, YouTube, in being democratized in the way it is and anybody being allowed to put whatever they put up, there is a problem there. Because say if I was a music artist and I've made a record and I'm trying to make a living out of that record, you know, then how do I make a living out of that record? Well, in the old days, you used to sell the record, didn't you? You know, you'd sell the album, people would buy it, and that bit of profit that came off the album would somehow get back to you in order to be shared out to your record company and your management and all sorts of different things. But that's gone now. People don't really buy stuff, although they still do buy stuff and there's still a profit to be made, but that's another video. Money is made now through advertising. Music, like film and video and all the rest, is part of the entertainment industry. It's part of the media world, and media tends to make its money from subscriptions or from advertising. YouTube does both. I am subscribed to YouTube. I don't get any adverts. It's wonderful. So I pay them a monthly fee and I'm quite happy to do that. But most of you are watching this. The thing that's earning your right to watch me at the moment is the fact that you're having to watch certain ads. And by watching those ads, at least in part, that generates some income, because YouTube can then go to different organizations and say, do you want to sell on YouTube? The advantage being that we have this guy called Andy Edwards, and he does a very specific thing. There's a very specific demographic that watch him, and we know that they also like whatever it is. You know, what could it be? You know, the sort of audience I have, I don't know. Maybe some sort of Viagra, perhaps. I don't know. What are you guys interested in? I don't know. Things that you can put your socks on because you can't bend down. I don't know. Right. So those are the answers you get. And this beats the old way of doing it, which is going down the shops and trying to find what you want. And so there is a vast amount of money to be made. The ad revenue that YouTube creates, 44% of it gets paid to me, 44% of it gets paid to Rick Beato, and the other 56% of it goes to YouTube. That's their earnings for doing that. So the deal is this: if I was an artist and I made an album, and then some little oik comes along and they put that album up on their YouTube video, what would happen then is loads of people would be listening to the album there. There'd be adverts on it, but the money would be paid to the little oik that put it up. So we have a thing called royalties. And what that does is it goes, hang on, you may have made that video, but the music in that is not yours. It belongs to this fella here. And we have a very complex system where the person who has made that recording, they're the owner of it. Right now, being the owner of a recording is actually very, very complex. We'll get into that in a minute, but they own it. And we have a thing called Content ID, which scans through every single video that comes up. And when we spot something that has been registered with Content ID, we go, hang on, that's in there. Now, YouTube's ability to do this is quite incredible. I have done bad cover versions of songs, and yet the Content ID has been able to be spotted, because it's not just the actual recording itself, it's the composition of the song. So the way the artists are out there make a living now, and there's a good living to be made, is through stuff being online and it creating royalties. Now, if you put a track up on Spotify that's 2.5 minutes long, right, you will gain the streaming ad revenue for 2.5 minutes, which is minuscule. Everyone complains about Spotify and says how bad it is for the artists, but the only reason is because Spotify is having adverts every few minutes, isn't it? And they get on your nerves. So you want as many songs as possible before some adverts come on, or you're going to pay for subscription. Either way, the money will be divided in a certain way. So if you have a 2.5 minute songs, and that's one amongst, you know, one of 10 songs, and then you get the ad revenue. The ad revenue that was created here is now spread out between those 10 different artists. It is nothing. If you've got a podcast, mind you, and that podcast is 3.5 hours long, then all the adverts in that will be yours. Now, Spotify's way of splitting that ad revenue isn't quite as simple as that. But that's also the case here on YouTube, except the deal on YouTube is different. If I was to make an hour-long video and put 20 seconds up of a song by the Beatles, for example, as soon as that video goes up, the Content ID AI thing would scan it and go, he's got a Beatles song. And at that point, I would receive a message if the person who owns the royalties has decreed this, and they usually have. And it would say, there's a Beatles song in your video, Andy. We are going to take the totality of the royalties. So they have the whole lot. This is why I don't put music up in my videos. Now, this, of course, is against the rules of copyright, as I've said elsewhere, in that if you are using someone else's copyrighted material, but you are transforming it in a certain way, which means that you are reviewing it, for example, or using a section of it to study, it's educational, then theoretically you should be able to use that copyrighted material. But the reality is that if I was to do a top 10, you know, greatest progressive rock albums and have a little bit of each album, which I would love to do, but it would be very easy for me to do. And I do it every now and then, but when I do it, I know that I will lose the totality of the monetization. Now, you could say there was other people that do it. Well, they might not be monetized. They might be monetized but don't need the money. Or they might have another way of creating money because their money is being made out of the memberships, or they have a Patreon. Now, I have all these things, but certain people, they're interested in a different way. I basically now earn a living out of this YouTube, and so I every now and then, to make the experience good for you guys, I'll put a track in. And when I really feel I want to put a track in, which is usually a humorous reason, and I can't not do the joke, then I will put the track in knowing that it will be demonetized. Now, I have to be honest, I'm quite happy with that situation. I think it would be better if the people who own the copyright on these songs just got a percentage of the video. And I'd even argue maybe not even the percentage of the duration of the song that's on, because I understand the argument is if I've got a video and it's got Beatles songs on, they are pretty cool songs and it's adding to my content in a great way. Well, about 50%, that would be okay, wouldn't it? I could live with that, but no, they have the whole lot. But this isn't an issue of monetization. That is not what Rick Beato is struggling with here. Right, what he's struggling with is the fact that he's had a copyright strike, and that's a different thing. But before we get to the idea of the copyright strike, let's just talk about the copyright a little bit. Right, there's a number of different types of copyright. If I put a song on here, people will be earning off me placing the song because they own the song, the physical song they own. Record companies own the song, right? Not the artists, the record companies. If you make a song yourself and you put it up online, then somebody uses that in one of their videos, you own the song, okay? Record companies own the song, right? And that has an effect because usually the deal is on the song that they will take the profit for the song being used and pass 15% on, usually 10% to the artist. So the cut there is pretty good. Now, also, the copyright on the masters, which is owning the actual track, when you stream, I believe it's 6 times the publishing. Now, the publishing is the money you make for writing a song. So if somebody puts a cover version of a Beatles song up, the people who own that performance, the masters, will get some money, but also the Beatles will get some money because they wrote the song. And so these splits are very, very complex, right? Now, Rick Beato, what he's been doing is he interviews artists. This is the bizarre thing, and I can see why he's so miffed by this. He will interview an artist, like, say, Daniel Lanois, who's a music producer. He will talk about Daniel Lanois' career, going through the tunes that Daniel Lanois wants to talk about, and he will play some of the tunes. But Daniel Lanois produced those tunes. He may have written those tunes. He may have even performed on those tunes. But they're not owned by him. They're owned by a record company. Now, the record companies have sort of been eaten up by huge conglomerations now. And Universal, which when I was a kid was a film studios that, you know, I remember produced The $6 Million Man, and you saw that globe going round. Universal has now grown to a huge multimedia company and does all sorts of different media enterprises. And within that, there is a thing called the Universal Music Group. Now, the Universal Music Group are not just demonetizing Rick Beato's videos. This is not what they're doing. What they are doing is they are putting out copyright strikes. Now, copyright strikes are something different to what we're talking about, and I think this needs to be understood. A copyright strike is where an organization actually emails YouTube and says, we don't just want this demonetized, we want it taken down. We own the copyright on that thing that is in that video, and we don't want it. We forbid it from being in there. Now, usually, when I've signed deals, you sign a thing that says, you know, where would you want your music used, you know, because you might be the sort of person that doesn't want your music, say, in a film that's pornographic, or if you are a left-wing person, you might not want it being used by right-wing political parties. So you can specify, and that's quite understandable that the artist wouldn't want that to happen. But here it doesn't seem to be the artist, because it isn't that certain artists are offering copyright strikes or taking out copyright strikes. It's Universal Music Group. It doesn't seem to be anything to do with the artists. And it seems that if Rick Beato is interviewing certain people and whether they're playing their songs, they're quite happy for those songs to be played because they agreed to the interview. So the first thing we can establish, it is not the artist. It is not an artistic decision. It's a business decision by Universal Music Group. Now, most labels don't offer, don't try and take out copyright strikes at like this. You can put the track in, and it makes sense, because if you have an artist that has been around for 50 years, it's signed to your label, and then someone like me comes along and puts their song in a video. Now, that song's earned money for 50 years. It's earned money being on vinyl, on cassette tapes, then it was put onto CD. It's now making money on Spotify. It's been in various films. It's probably been played on the radio for 50 years. It's already amassed a ton of money. And how else could it make any money now? For an artist, some jazz fusion artists, and maybe they made a whole ton of money in the 70s. But now I can play it, and I can make them some money. I can make the artist and that company some money. So you could understand people, the companies and the artists wanting to get a payment, and so they would want to demonetize you, but stop you from having it. That can only happen on moral grounds, really, I would say, that the artist does not want their music used in this way. This isn't what's happening here. Universal Music Group are putting out, copyright strikes, and they are doing it with a frequency that seems to be their way of doing it. It's worth, at this point, I just paused the video because I had a thought, and I thought, let's just explain what a copyright strike is. We've explained what demonetization is on YouTube, but what's a copyright strike? Well, say you own a copyright on something, like a song, and you see a guy who's using it on his video, right? And you don't want that to happen. You should be in your rights to, get in contact, send an email to YouTube and say, I don't want that to happen. Take that video down. Now, at that point, you're issued with a copyright strike. Now, the rules of the copyright strike, because I've had a copyright strike, and they're pretty fierce. I didn't realize how fierce they are. So, a few weeks ago, I did a live stream where I put a commentary to the Black Sabbath Ozzy Osbourne final concert. And in my talk, I had a laptop set up here. I did a whole video on this, but I had a laptop set here. And you could see a little silent video, all blurry, of the concert. Right? And I put that there so people were watching it. I didn't expect them to watch that. They weren't going to get any enjoyment from watching that. But what they could do is look at it and go, oh, Andy's talking about that band. I understand. So there I was, quite happily streaming away. I'd had nearly 100,000 people watching this live stream. It was a great success, and then suddenly it went down, and I didn't know why. I couldn't work it out. I go back into YouTube, and it said I've been issued with a copyright strike. Now, at that point, I was ordered to attend copyright strike school, which I did. I went into this little online course. I didn't watch the video because I am a music lecturer, so I could answer the questions on copyright. So I ticked all the boxes, I passed, that was done. And then I was notified that that video had been taken down, right? That the people who own that video had asked for it to be taken down. And then this was the terrifying part for me. This was the first strike of 3. If you get 3 copyright strikes, what YouTube does then is completely obliterate your channel. They take it away. All the videos are gone. Everything's gone. You cannot set up again. Any other YouTube videos, channels that you use, even if they're unrelated, they will get taken down, and you will not be able to do anything on YouTube forever again. If you earn your money living from it, that is gone. Anything that anybody's working for you, they lose their jobs. And that is on the whim of somebody going, I don't want that track on that video. Now, I believe they have the rights to say that, but we have to wonder why YouTube has put such stringent things in place. It is such a draconian punishment, right? And you have to understand that there is a thing called fair use. Now, fair use is a set of rules that allows you to use copyrighted material, or at least not get in trouble for it. When I had the silent Black Sabbath footage here, that was fair use. Everything that RICK BEATO has ever done has been fair use. So it is not as though someone puts the complaint in and then YouTube goes, well, is that fair use? Well, it is, so they can't stop it, can they? That's not what happened. YouTube just shuts it down. 3 strikes and you're out. Now, Rick Beato, it has to be said, will have made so much money off his YouTube over the last few years that if he did lose his YouTube, he would probably be able to live for the rest of his life on the money he's got, but also with the following he's got, he could jump over to Rumble or Patreon or anywhere else. So enough people would go there, and what you would have is Rick Beato has gone from being a channel for the people, he would move and just become a channel for those who can afford to watch it. It would just promote an elitism and work against the democratization that has been so wonderful with YouTube, right? Same thing with me. If I ever get taken out, you know, I will be making an announcement and saying I am now over on Patreon. If you want to watch my content, it will be over on Patreon, and that's where I will move to. And it would be much less fun, but the audience would be there. It would be a different thing. So that is another thing that has never been mentioned that I worry about, you know, because at the moment, there are things that channels like mine and Rick do, which I think are quite useful in terms of maintaining the music that we love and also inspiring people to be creative. That's the remit of my channel, is to try and free people to value freedom of expression and get people doing stuff so they have a more productive and interesting life. I think that's very, very important. So the question we now arrive at, now I think we've got here, is why is the Universal Music Group in particular continually targeting Rick Beato? So let's actually look what's going on here and explain that in detail. Rick Beato, on his recent video where he discussed this, got out the sort of inbox of his email, and you could see that at say 12:01 he had a copyright strike, and then at 12:01 he had another copyright strike, and then at 12:01 he had another copyright strike, and then he had a sort of 5-minute gap. And it seemed to me that that was not a computer, that's a human being that's gone, right, there's those 3 videos, right, let's put those emails out, bang, right, let's have another look. 10 minutes later, oh my God, they've got something there. And they've done that, and they've done that for a 2-hour period and then stopped. And so what you have is a human being scanning Rick Beato's, offering copyright strikes to YouTube. They're accepting them, and they're dishing them out, right? Now, this for Rick must be absolutely terrifying. So he's now employing a lawyer full time, because remember what I said, he is utilizing this material. It's fair use. He can do it. He's not breaking the copyright rules. So as soon as it's challenged, it's overturned. If this was not the case, he would be panicking now, because basically his channel would be over, and Rick Beato too would be over as well. All right. But he's not worried, because he's hoping and he's confident that his lawyer will challenge this. So why is the Universal Music Group, why is such a big organization got somebody in there, and Rick Beato's a big YouTuber, but it's quite small fry for them in reality. Why are they doing this when they are losing revenue from having the video just simply demonetized? That is the bit I do not understand. Why does the Universal Music Group not want Rick to have their tunes when the artists that are associated with that group are on there because they want the sort of profile and publicity, and they want to be involved in YouTube, they want to be involved in the creative exploration and the different views and the different audiences that come in. They want to be there, and yet their company is in a certain way stopping that from happening and losing them income. This is the bit I don't understand. I absolutely don't understand this, right? A lot of musicians go over to YouTube. I have done so. Now, if I got my act together, because I haven't done this, but if I got my act together and I put my own music into my channels, oh, this has happened, right? So I am signed. I'm signed to I've had a number of deals, and that music is content ID'd. So if I make a video and I put some of the music, say from my band Rain, into the video, this happened the other day. As soon as it goes up, it says the copyright holder of this track has demonetized your video. And I go, well, that's me, but it's not quite me. What will happen is the band and the record company will receive the money. Now, I don't mind that. And if I know the rules, I will be able to utilize it. I would love to be in a situation where really obscure jazz, rock and prog artists can come to me. I can play them a track on a video. That track would, get enough views for them to get a little bit of money in their pocket. And that would pay for a relationship between me and the artist to develop them through this channel. I would love to be doing what YouTube does for their advertisers for the artists. This is why I've never taken, and I'm getting offered them every single day, sponsorships deals. Now, if I had sponsorship deals with certain companies, I could then put tracks up, but I could not worry about the demonetization of the video because I'm now getting paid by the companies I'm working with in direct sponsorship. You see, this is how complex it all is. I got to be honest, I focus just on doing the videos. I can't get bogged down in worrying about all this. I'm sure if I ever got to Rick Beato's level and it could have afford for people to do this for me, then I could start going through some of these sponsorship deals and see which ones are real and which ones aren't. I nearly did one. I just couldn't get my act together. I wanted to do one with a sort of AI company that looked at stem splitting, which is the software that can take a track and then break it down into component tracks. And I was very interested in utilizing this because I wanted to go back to old bootlegs of certain bands and see if it was possible to remix them from the ground up. Now, of course, if I did that, not only would I be utilizing these tracks and creating new royalties, I would be actually creating new mixes and masters. And you could have a situation where the artist turns around and says, well, I don't want Andy to do that, right? Because we haven't okayed that. And then they would put a copyright strike out on me. Now, I could then say, look, what's happening here? This is creating a new audience for you. And if this works and they like it, you can have it. You can have my mix. I don't want anything for it. And you can put that out again and make more money. So this is the area. There's money to be made. I can tell you this now. The music industry, and I'm talking about our music industry, the sort of acts that can't work on Spotify because the audience is just too small. Prog, jazz, rock, fusion, experimental music, all that stuff that we talk about. There is a way of generating income for these artists, but they've got to get their head around all of this. I find that there's two huge elephants in the room. It's bad enough when there's one elephant in the room, but there's two here. One is the severity of the copyright strike, right? I don't mind somebody saying, take that video down. We don't want it up, right? Now, YouTube has AI editing stuff in it. So it can say, that track has demonetized your video. Do you want to just take it out? And I go, oh, okay, then I click it. And they just take it out. It's edited out by them. And that's when I decided, it wasn't good. It wasn't important enough to have that video in. I did a video recently called the eight jazz musicians that get on my nerves. And in that, I had a clip of The Fast Show, which was a British comedy that we had, where they had this parody of a jazz club called Jazz Club. And it's famous because the host, who was a sort of beatnik jazz type, would say something and then he'd go. So he would say, this is Andy Edwards with his jazz trio, melodic funk, nice. And he would do that. And so I put that in. The people who owe that footage went, no, you can't put the video out. We're not having it. But I didn't have a copyright strike. So I was just, okay, then I'll edit it out. That was it. They were going to demonetize it on that. Basically, somebody turned around and go nice to the camera, which was like a second. They wanted to have all the cash for the whole video. I thought, no, I'll just take it. So these rules, I think, are harming artists. They're harming the record companies in certain cases. They aren't working to the best in terms of everybody being able to make a living and all that type of thing. The copyright strike, the punishment is draconian. The idea that a whole channel can be taken away on the whim of somebody is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And for those of us who can't afford a lawyer like me, I already have that one copyright strike, and I feel like anybody could come along and just do 2 more copyright strikes against me, and And then, well, I'd get onto YouTube and explain that I haven't done anything wrong, blah, blah, blah. And they would get overturned. But why? Why have that there? Why is it so draconian? Now, it's draconian because YouTube have obviously had to do deals with big companies. And I think this is the other elephant in the room. Universal Music Group is one of the biggest groups in terms of it's not even a record label, this huge media organization. Why are they doing this? Well, I think the answer, which nobody has said I think I know what it is now. I've spoken through it. I had a rough idea before I started, to be honest. And I thought, is it that? I'll tell you a story. There is a very famous drum company that if you're a drummer, you will know their name. And a few years back, I was involved with a thing on Facebook called the Drummers Database. And we had hundreds of thousands of people looking at this group on Facebook. So we went to the big drum companies and said, look, you're spending £1,000 on an advert in a magazine that has a readership of just a few thousand people. But if you were to spend much less on our Facebook group, we would be able to get you in front of 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 people. And so that is something that was pretty attractive, I would have thought, I am sorry. I'm trying to do this video. I'm back in my old studio, right? I'm just right at the point where I'm going to deliver the sort of message of this. But I forgot when I'm here. My kids keep coming in and I'm sort of shooing them as I'm talking, but they don't. They just stare at me because they want something, right? And so I'm going, I'll finish this in a minute and then I can do whatever it is that you are telling me what to do, right? And that just happened. And because I paused it halfway through, and I remember I said the word for, but I couldn't remember what it is. Now, the whole point of this video, as I said at the beginning, I wanted it to be unedited. That has 2 bloody edits in, right? But it's just been me as to starting and stopping. God, life, I don't know. Very frustrated, I find. God in heaven. Forgot about this. Be glad I've got my car back. I could be sat in my studio now. I've got my car back. I don't have to come back in here. But I have to be honest, there's something about this that I like. But that's not the point. You've been sat here for like half an hour and here we go. Why is it? Why? Let's just ask the question. Why is the Universal Music Group doing this? Right, so I was telling a story and I remember now I've started talking. You see, when you talk, you can sort of get somewhere which you can't get to. I couldn't remember. I thought I'd said the word for. What was it for? Now, what it was is that it was very attractive for companies to come onto us, pay a quarter of the price and get their advert in front of maybe 100 times more people. But they didn't go for it. And I couldn't understand it. I thought, why are they not doing this? Why are they not doing this? And I realised after a while and talking to people that this famous drum company was not advertising to sell stuff. They weren't. It was quite incredible. They weren't. What the hell were they doing? Well, I got told this, that there was a guy that worked for this famous drum company and his job was to measure the amount of advertisements in terms of square inches that they had in various drum and music magazines. And if you advertise in a magazine, it's a lot more than if you wanted to advertise with me, but I can reach a much bigger audience. So why would they want to have this? Now, the reason is, I was told, is that if you pick up a magazine, that magazine, because it's real, is seen as being more important. This is the whole mainstream media thing, right? There's this drum company, all right, and somebody goes into a shop and they buy the official proper drum magazine in that country. And when they open the magazine, they start to go through it and they start to see all the companies in there, all the different drum companies, Tama, Yamaha, Zildjian, Peisty, they're going all through it. And then this drum company, which I haven't mentioned who they are, someone might get to the end and go, well, there's no advert for so-and-so. I wonder why they're not in there. Maybe they don't work. Maybe they're not around anymore. I don't know. These companies sell. They make their money. That is not the issue. The reason why they're advertising is not just to sell the product. It's to, if you have a big company, and Universal Music Group is the biggest company, you want to see that your stuff is, that you as a company are still hitting heavy, that you have the reputation, that you are there in the right places. I wonder whether the reason why Universal Music Group have done this is because of that reason. They don't want their product just being placed willy-nilly by anybody. They want to make the point that we are Universal Music Group. If you are signed to us, you are signed with the establishment, with the real deal. Right, we will get your tracks in mainstream films. We will get your tracks on the television, on the proper television. And these jokers that have set up in their little bloody studios doing their own thing, we will not tolerate. They are not going to run the show. It's not going to be seen that a track by Universal Music Group can just be used. There will be some respect for this music. We don't care what the artists think because the artists don't own these tracks. We own them. It's our product. It is our collateral. It is our value. It will not be disrespected. I honestly think this is what it's about. The money that they would gain by that track being there, which would seem considerable to us, to the Universal Music Group, which is part of a multimedia organization, which for now is making its money elsewhere. And these catalogs that they own, all they're interested in is safeguarding that for the future. When the artists die or they sell these catalogs onto Universal Music Group, it's part of their portfolio. It's like being a real estate company. We've got James Brown, whole catalogue, and we've got Stevie Wonder, and we've got Aretha Franklin, we've got all of Judas Priest's records. In the future, they see this as being their capital, and they see this as being assets, and they will own the media, or they hope to own the media, and these tracks will be cropping up in whichever Avengers 578 has come out. It's the old system, and these people do not understand what Rick Beato is doing or what I'm doing. This is not about money. This is about power. It is about them maintaining the much greater value, which is the fact that they own these songs. This is why the whole music industry has moved from being a countercultural thing made by kids to being the domain of the Mount Olympians, you know, the golden gods, the legends. It's all about legends. And they want these people to become legends, and they want to be able to own it. The copyright on the actual tunes will go at some point, although I think they'll try their best to extend it. But owning it will be like owning the Mona Lisa. It will be like owning a Titian or a Picasso or Francis Bacon, right? And what they want is they want to safeguard and have the control, and they want to frighten people. They want to be able to go to YouTube and say, look, if you want to deal with us, then you're going to have to take anybody out. If we want them out, they get taken out. That is what this is about. Rick Beato is not big enough. Nobody ever has been with this industry. You know, George Michael wasn't big enough to take them out. He tried to take Sony to court. It didn't work. A few years later, he was dead. You know, Prince tried to take the record companies to court. Remember, he wouldn't let them use his name and all that. He tried to do what they did, right? It didn't work. A few years later, he was dead. I'm not saying the companies had knocked him out yet, the bloody mafia or whatever, but I've been watching too many gangster movies at the moment. No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that for an artist, the artists are very sensitive and they have a certain idea about their work. And when that does happen, they can slide into a place which is not great at all. And I think this has been a curse for so many people. And this is why the devil's bargain, which exists between the big business and the artists, has never been that easy. And I tried to show that with that was that there. That was the artist. We can't work with you. We've got to work with you. I don't like you though. Right, so that's what we've got going on here. And what's interesting is Rick Beato is getting treated like a little bit like artists did in the 1960s. You know, those guys that played with Jimi Hendrix, Noel Redding and Mitch Mitchell, they made nothing. You know, they were so in the middle of what was going on. You hadn't had the likes of the Beatles and then people like Peter Grant and Don Arden come up and make the deal for the artists better. They just got ripped off. Mitch Mitchell and Noel Redding should have been set up for the rest of their lives, and yet they had to scratch about. This has not happened with YouTube. YouTube has been very fair for musicians in reality, and it is a place that can keep music healthy. I think I have nailed it, and I'm glad I have. You see, it works. It works. Had a few annoying interruptions by my kids, you know. But if they have to have a lift, they have to have a lift. The car's back now, and as soon as the car's back, they need to have a lift. Right, so I think we're done here. Very good. There's a bag here down here full of stuff as well. What we got down here? What's this? Oh, Christmas decorations. That's where they are, is it? They've been mixed up with some Halloween decorations. Oh my God! So I've got a couple of little baubles here to entertain you with at the end of the video. There we go. You can tell I'm back in my old studio because it's even more sillier than it is in the new. New studio's a bit more serious than here. But these baubles are very important, all right? They glitter and they create a sense of wonder and magic, don't they, the baubles? But they also represent, this could be Earth, this could be the moon going around the Earth. So we have this little solar system like this, right? And the moon is going around the Earth like that. Imagine that we're in space, right? And that's what's going on. And the moon is in direct symbiosis with the Earth. It keeps the tides going and does other stuff that we're not aware of. It even controls, women's cycles, their cycles, not bicycles, they're just their cycles. So our very being is dependent on this symbiotic relationship, which is actually more like that. But from our point of view, it seems like that, doesn't it? It seems like that. But from the moon's point of view, it probably seems like that. But the truth is, it's like this. And this basically is how many things work. And at the moment, YouTube, which has been democratized, in many cases, it is actually working quite like this. And that's how it should be. Rick Beato is the little silver bauble, and the Universal Music Group is the great big pink, less shiny bauble, right? But they want it to be like that. That's what they want, right? Now, Rick doesn't want it to be like that. He wants it to be like that, but it's not. It's like that, okay? What would be the best thing to happen in this situation? Well, it would be that. But if we're not careful, it will be... I think that's explained it better than anybody could. Don't you think? We've got that there. That was quite good there. I felt that my miming skills and my use of objects, household objects, to illustrate the fact that we are all related in some way. Or I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I like it back in. I don't want to stop. You know why I'm doing this? I am a contrarian. My daughter's sat in there waiting, going, when's Dad going to finish? And here I am. The fact that I know I'm extending it like this, I'm getting a perverse pleasure, but I think I should go and give her a lift now. It's only right that I do that. So with that, I will bid you adieu. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm quite chuffed, you see. I think I've got to something that was, I tell you what it is. I'm imagining that Rick Beato is watching this. And I'm hoping he gets to the end and go, Andy, I think he's right there. I think that is the reason. That's interesting. I may give him an email and say, I thought your video, or even put a comment on here, and then I can go, oh my God, Rick Beato actually put a comment on. I think he knows who I am, and that'll make me happy. And, but also there's a little bit of me that when he got to the end and I got the baubles out, he probably had a chuckle to himself. They go, this is so silly. This bloke's a silly person. And I am a silly person. That is part of my shtick, is being silly. And I'm quite happy to be the silly fool. And I hope you are happy to watch me being a silly fool. If you are, stick a like on the video. If you want to see more silliness, if you want to see more enactments of certain metaphorical situations using Christmas decorations as a metaphor for celestial bodies, you've come to the right place. So subscribe. I have a Patreon. Become a free member, because if it ever goes tits up, sorry to use that term, then we'll all jump over to there and I will have the free. I've got 1,000 free members now. incredible. So I could set up over there, I think, and keep going. I don't know how I'd make the money. They'd have to give me money somehow. I can't just do it for no money. I need to put food on the table. And if you want to put food on my table, I have a YouTube, PayPal, tip jar. Link is down below. Or you could become a member, and the members got to see this video earlier and all that type of stuff, and they get to see the members' videos. Any other ways of supporting me? I have a Substack, you know, it's all right, not that good, but got a few essays up on there if you want to go and read them, a few podcasts you can have a listen to, and I have a Bandcamp, and I have something new coming up which I'm going to announce very soon. I love the democratization of the internet, and when it comes to physical sales, I think a revolution is about to happen. Watch this space. We'll find out in the next few days if something has happened that is very, very important in terms of the music we discuss here. So keep watching. This is where it's at. Come on. See you later.